The news sent shockwaves through the Middle East, reverberating across the region with an intensity that few could have anticipated. The streets buzzed with conversations, and the air was thick with speculation and concern. People gathered around televisions and radios, eager to catch every detail of the unfolding drama. Trump to Israel, annexation, a no-go. This bold statement was not just a headline, it was a declaration that marked a significant shift in U.S. foreign policy. The world watched as Trump, known for his unpredictable moves, took a firm stance against a key Israeli ambition. For years, Trump was Israel's staunchest ally, offering unwavering support and aligning closely with its leadership. But now, he drew a red line against annexing the West Bank, a move that surprised many and left Israeli leaders in a state of uncertainty. The plan, a key goal for Israel's right wing, suddenly clashed with American policy. This was not just a minor policy disagreement, it was a fundamental clash over the future of the region, with implications that could reshape alliances and strategies. This wasn't just a disagreement, it was a fundamental clash over the region's future. The stakes were high, and the potential fallout was immense. Diplomats engaged in heated discussions, aware that the outcome could alter the course of history. The U.S. was brokering a historic peace deal between Israel and Saudi Arabia, and annexation threatened to derail it. This deal was seen as a cornerstone for future peace and stability in the region, and any disruption could have far-reaching consequences. Trump made his position clear: Israel must not act unilaterally in the West Bank. His message was firm and unequivocal, leaving no room for misinterpretation. The world watched as he laid down the law, emphasizing the importance of collaboration and diplomacy. He warned that defying the U.S. could jeopardize vital American support. This was not just a political maneuver, it was a strategic warning that underscored the importance of maintaining strong bilateral relations. For an administration that moved the embassy to Jerusalem and recognized the Golan Heights, this was a dramatic shift. It highlighted the complexity of international relations and the delicate balance of power in the Middle East. Even for close allies, there are limits. The image of Trump and Netanyahu walking apart symbolized the growing rift, a visual representation of the tensions that were now at play. The Trump administration now faced a tough choice: support Israel's ambitions or protect broader Middle East goals. This decision was not just about politics, it was about shaping the future of the region and ensuring long-term stability. Regional stability, containing Iran, and normalization with Arab states were all at stake. The geopolitical landscape was shifting, and every move was being carefully scrutinized by allies and adversaries alike. The White House message was blunt: annexation could unravel everything. The potential for peace was hanging by a thread, and the consequences of failure were too dire to ignore. Trump's stand put him at odds with some of his staunchest supporters in Israel and at home. The political landscape was fraught with tension, as supporters and critics alike grappled with the implications of this bold move. Prime Minister Netanyahu was caught between U.S. pressure and his own right-wing coalition. Publicly, he praised Trump's friendship and the value of the American alliance, but he also asserted Israel's right to decide its own fate. Netanyahu reminded everyone, final decisions about Israel's security are made in Jerusalem, not Washington. He reassured his base that annexation wasn't abandoned, just delayed. The pause was framed as strategic, not surrender. Netanyahu's balancing act aimed to keep his coalition intact while avoiding a rift with the U.S. The dilemma was clear: maintain U.S. support or risk political upheaval at home. The annexation issue brought years of tension to a head. The world watched, knowing Netanyahu's choice would shape the region's future. The music of diplomacy was growing louder and more discordant. U.S. opposition wasn't just talk, it arrived in person. The American presence in Israel was unmistakable, signaling that Washington was taking the situation with utmost seriousness. The arrival of high-level officials underscored the gravity of the moment and the urgency of the message they carried. Vice President J.D. Vance, on a high-profile visit to Israel, didn't mince words. He called the annexation push a stupid political stunt, making it clear that the U.S. saw this move as reckless and dangerous. Vance's remarks were not just for the cameras, they were a direct warning to Israeli leaders that the U.S. would not stand by quietly. Secretary of State Marco Rubio echoed Vance's warning, stating unequivocally that unilateral annexation would be a grave mistake. Rubio emphasized that such a move would have severe consequences, not just for Israel's relationship with the U.S., but for the entire region. Their message was unified and direct: This was a core U.S. policy, not a minor dispute. Both leaders stood shoulder to shoulder, presenting a rare display of bipartisan resolve. The U.S. position was firm. Annexation was a red line that could not be crossed without repercussions. They warned that annexation would ignite unrest, destroy hopes for regional peace, and block any chance of normalization with Saudi Arabia. The officials painted a stark picture of the risks, highlighting how quickly the fragile balance in the Middle East could unravel. Arab leaders, they said, couldn't move closer to Israel if it annexed Palestinian land. The prospect of diplomatic breakthroughs with Gulf states would vanish overnight, replaced by renewed hostility and suspicion. The choice was stark: annexation or peace with the Arab world. Israel faced a crossroads: pursue short-term political gains or secure long-term regional stability and acceptance. In private, Vance and Rubio told Israeli leaders that Trump's red line was real and non-negotiable. The Americans made it clear that this was not a bluff or a diplomatic tactic, but a firm boundary set by the White House. The U.S. was prepared to reconsider its support if ignored. This was a dramatic escalation, signaling that the long-standing alliance could be at risk if Israel defied American warnings. This face-to-face diplomacy turned a policy clash into a personal confrontation. The stakes were no longer abstract, they were immediate, and the tension in the room was palpable. Israel was forced to weigh the immediate fallout of its actions. Every decision now carried enormous consequences, both domestically and on the world stage. The crisis was now impossible to ignore. The world watched as the U.S. and Israel stood at a pivotal moment, with the future of the region hanging in the balance. Under intense U.S. pressure, Israel quickly halted the annexation bills. Netanyahu's office distanced the government from the legislation, blaming opposition rivals. The bills were frozen, a direct result of American pushback. Netanyahu prioritized the U.S. alliance over his coalition's demands. The move angered hardliners who saw it as a capitulation. Netanyahu reassured them sovereignty was postponed, not abandoned. The episode showed Washington's powerful influence over Israeli policy. Israel's independence has limits when U.S. support is at stake. Netanyahu chose alliance over unilateral action. Annexation was shelved, but political tensions in Israel simmered on. The annexation bill sparked outrage across the Arab world. Jordan, Egypt, and Gulf states condemned the move as a threat to regional stability and the two-state solution. Their unified opposition added weight to U.S. pressure, isolating Israel. For Arab leaders, annexation made normalization with Israel politically impossible. Jordan even threatened to review its peace treaty. The backlash showed how deeply the Palestinian issue resonates in the region. The crisis highlighted the fragile, interconnected nature of Middle Eastern politics. Political drama unfolded as violence surged on the ground. The Gaza ceasefire was fragile. West Bank tensions escalated. Settler attacks and settlement expansion fueled Palestinian anger and instability. The annexation debate poured gasoline on a smoldering conflict. Rising violence threatened to shatter the Gaza truce. Militants warned that West Bank crackdowns could reignite war. The international community urged Israel to rein in settler violence and protect civilians. The region was a tinderbox. One misstep could spark a wider conflict. The immediate crisis is paused, not resolved. Tensions simmer just beneath the surface, and uncertainty hangs heavy in the air. For many, this uneasy calm feels more like the eye of a storm than a true reprieve. Netanyahu bowed to U.S. pressure, but divisions in his coalition remain. His government is fractured, with hardliners and moderates locked in a constant struggle over the nation's future direction. Pro-annexation forces will push again, especially as elections loom. Political ambitions and ideological fervor are likely to intensify, fueling further instability and public demonstrations. Trump must balance support for Israel with his regional peace ambitions. Every decision is scrutinized, as he tries to maintain alliances while avoiding actions that could ignite wider conflict. The annexation debate exposed deep rifts in U.S.-Israel relations and reignited Arab tensions. Old wounds have reopened, and trust between key players is at a low point. Violence in the West Bank threatens the fragile Gaza ceasefire. Any spark could unravel months of delicate negotiations and plunge the region back into open conflict. The core issues, borders, settlements, Jerusalem, remain unresolved. These are not just political disputes, but matters deeply tied to identity, history, and faith. There's no clear path to peace. Diplomats search for solutions, but the obstacles are daunting and the prospects for breakthrough seem distant. The current pause is uneasy, a temporary truce in a long struggle. Ordinary people live with constant uncertainty, their daily routines shadowed by the threat of renewed violence. The future depends on U.S. diplomacy, Israeli politics, and unpredictable realities on the ground. Every actor faces difficult choices, and the consequences of missteps could be severe. The world watches, hoping for peace but bracing for escalation. International attention is fixed on the region, as leaders and citizens alike wonder what tomorrow will bring. The stakes are high. A single miscalculation could plunge the region into chaos. The cost of failure would be measured in lives, livelihoods, and the stability of an entire region. The path forward is narrow, and the risks are immense. Yet, amid the uncertainty, hope persists that dialogue and diplomacy might one day prevail.